Awesome. Pamela, if you would like to bring up the welcome slides, I will officially convene us and pass it over to our colleague Benjamin. He's one of our faculty here at NTAC, and to really welcome and center everyone, he's going to lead us through a brief mindfulness exercise before we get started.
Thanks, Yasmina. Welcome, everyone. We are really excited for you to be here. As Yasmina mentioned, I'm going to lead everyone in a quick meditation and grounding exercise. So wherever you are today, inviting you to find a posture that is supportive. So when I think of supportive, I want some relaxation, but some uprightness too. So finding a posture, whether you're standing or sitting, coming into some stillness. Again, close your eyes or keep them open, whatever is comfortable for you. And let's start by doing a gentle body scan. So starting at your head, slowly moving down the body, noticing whatever is here for you. As you move down the body from the head to the feet, inviting relaxation. If there's any places of tightness, just consciously relaxing into it. As we settle in, I invite you to ask yourself, what is it like to be me right now? What is it like to be me right now? Just seeing what's there for you. Now we'll move our attention to our breath. So let's start with some deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. If it's helpful, you can do some counting. So counting to 4 on your inhale and your exhale. But for the next little bit, just returning your awareness and your attention to the breath anytime it wanders. Some deep breathing, allowing yourself to settle in. As you breathe, see if you can notice some small changes from breath to breath. We're going to be talking about transitions and change for the next little bit and hearing from some panelists. And if we pay attention, each breath is a little bit different than the next. See if you can notice small differences or how your breath is changing. All right. And finally, for the final bit here, ask yourself the question again, what is it like to be me right now? Just dropping that in. What is it like to be me right now? Here in this room, in my body. And see if you notice any difference between the first time when you asked it and now. Are there any differences? All right. With that, so just bringing your attention back to the weight of your body, any sensations or your mood, just opening it up as we close the meditation. You can open your eyes. Want to thank everyone for being playful with me, thinking a little bit about changes and transitions. And I will hand it off to you, Pamela. I think you're on mute, Pamela. Okay.
Thanks. Let me just make sure I can share my screen. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Benjamin. I feel like I'm even speaking too loudly after that really nice, calming, grounding exercise. So I apologize to folks for that. I'm still trying to share my screen here. Hang on one second. I will introduce myself in the meantime. You all already got to experience some of the great experts we have on our team and co-faculty. My name is Pamela Trevetti. I'm really pleased to be involved in this work with you all. I'm going to start with what I feel like is my most important role. I'm the mom of a school-age kiddo with behavioral health needs, and that's really a lens I want to share and bring to this work with you all. I'm also a school and child clinical psychologist by training, and I've done a lot of work. I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of work on national early childhood policy as well. And I'm the lead for the infant and early childhood mental health transformation team here at NTAC, our National Technical Assistance Center for Child, Youth, and Family Mental Health. And again, I'm really so pleased to be partnering with my very good colleague, Yasmina, who opened the session for us on this COP on upstream transitions, upstream transition partnerships from early childhood settings to school age settings and support. So now let me see if I can share my screen just to tell you all a little bit about what NTAC is.
Everybody should be able to share their screen, and you're a co-host.
Yeah, so let me see why I'm having trouble here. So sorry about this. I'll try one more time. Okay, I think it works now. Sorry, that was a delay. Okay, so
it happens.
Yeah, so everyone can see that, right? Great. So we have to read this slide out here, or I can just describe it here and keep it up here. So our center is funded by the SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, a federal agency. I think a lot of you from Yasmina's warm welcome have been on in some of our content before, so you know, or in some of our learning opportunities before, so you know that the views presented here are not the views of SAMHSA, not the views of HHS, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, but these are our own views and the views of our presenters that we're partnering with for this. So NTAC is comprised of really awesome organizations and partners we have. We are here to help you in the systems of care work, and we've partnered with some great organizations. Myself and Benjamin, who we all just benefited from that mindfulness exercise, are from Georgetown University. We have really great partners from CARS, including Yasmina, and just a lot of really awesome organizations that are comprised of family advocates, Fredla, and I think we have Millie from Fredla here participating with us today. We have some great youth advocates from Youth Move National. So we're just really excited to offer our interdisciplinary team with content knowledges in so many areas that impact systems of care work. So our goal at NTAC is that all children, youth, young adults, and families with emotional and behavioral health needs can access evidence-based treatment and recovery service in a well-coordinated system of care. I'm really glad that we don't have to use sort of more damaging vocabulary in our mission statement anymore. We were kind of stuck with some bad terminology before. So this language seems much more empowering to folks. Just wanted to show you a quick infographic here that sort of describes the suite or array of services that we offer. This is one of our kind of learning experiences we have, and we're partnering with you all to share experiences here. We have, so this is our community, this is launching a community of practice. This is the first day of our community of practice. We are probably filling your inbox with lots of our mailings with resources. Probably people on this in this learning forum have probably received many of our 5 things digest from different teams at NTAC, and I think they're chock full of really excellent resources. We are kind of offering more multimedia resources such as podcasts. We have practical tools. We have great online curricula that we're developing now that we're super excited about, and we love to help teams and organizations individually. So we'll also put this into the chat. You can always feel free to reach out to us for individual consultation and support. I don't want to say too much about this, but we're really excited about, myself and our colleagues and the experts we've partnered with are really excited about the COP. Here's just a couple of things that emerged so far from our conversation with our great panelists today. And I'm just going to put this on the screen for a few minutes, but a lot of these we're going to dig into some of these themes in the presentation today, but I'm just putting some of the things that emerged out there of what we're hoping to accomplish in our COP today. And without further ado, I'd like to hand it back over to my good colleague Yasmina to get us started with engaging with our experts.
Hi, everybody. And Alice, would you mind spotlighting the folks on the panel, please, while I introduce everyone? So in our norming today, and I'm going to hand it over to the panelists for our first questions and to introduce themselves. My name is Yasmina. I am going to be your moderator today. And when I talked to the panelists this morning, I told them this should feel like a chat in my backyard. I told them to interrupt each other, to engage with you in the chat box, to engage with you as they feel comfortable. We're not going to get to every question. There's just no way it would be possible. But if you want to learn more about our panelists or check out their bios or ask them a question personally, and you would like to use our Jamboard, you can access our Jamboard. And I'm going to show you really quick, in case you've never used Jamboard, how that works. Oh, did it share my whole screen or just my Jamboard? Luckily, I had nothing embarrassing. Here we go, take 2. All right, so if you've never used Jamboard and you'd like to join us, over on the left side of your screen, there are a set of tools. You can use, most commonly used for me are the sticky note, an insert picture, or this text box. You can navigate to the next slide. If you'd like to play around with any of the tools before you talk to our experts, you can scribble. You can leave a question for later. You can do anything you want there. It's the new parking lot. I'm calling it a bicycle rack, or actually I stole that idea from someone else. And if you'd like to scroll through all of our panelists' bios, they're in alpha order by first name. And if you have a question specifically for one of our panelists, you can just type it on a sticky and they should be able to answer it and see it later. Each of our panelists will be back later this series for their own, I'm going to call it a spotlight day. So if you want to hear more from them, don't worry, they will be back. So hold on. I am going to, oh, and then Yasmin is also here. I'm gonna get our spotlights going. Here we
Yes,
go.
hi, I'm Yasmin Lynch, and I am helping to moderate and facilitate this COP, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm really interested to hear our discussion about transitions, and I think that you all will be in for a treat as well.
Right. I think I have everybody. Do I? Yasmin, can you double check for me while I start? Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to have everybody go around and say their name, their pronouns, and one word that comes to mind when you think of transitions from early childhood to elementary at different developmental levels. And for this round, it's going to be quick. And we are just going to go in alphabetical order by first name. And I'll put the order in the chat. But Adugo, you will be first.
Darn, that's what happens when you have the first letter A in your name.
So I got the Y.
So Adugo Frimpong, I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. I'm currently working as a program manager with the DC Public Schools Office of Elementary Schools. So I supervise a team that provides mental health services as well as community and family engagement to our families who are attending our preschool program. My one theme for this will be goal-oriented. So for all my parents that are transitioning, you want to be goal-oriented when you're navigating this rough waters.
All right. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wyman, pronoun will be she. I'm here as, been asked as a parent of, I have two children that are 5 and 2, and they have both been one currently in AZIP, one previously in AZIP for early intervention. And my son is a current student at GETS and will be starting kindergarten, so we've got that next transition is coming. And then my daughter is 2, and she was born with a limb difference, which it's called FACO, and it affects her hand and her leg, left hand, right leg. So we've got lots of medical stuff we're dealing with there. And then for my son, he is diagnosed as DD currently. We'll see how that goes. And we had speech services for speech delays with AZIP. We are also a bilingual family. I am a sign language interpreter by profession. Dad is deaf, and we all use sign language as well as, that I speak English. And as professionally, as an interpreter, then a lot of my interpreting has been in schools, and I've interpreted all the way from preschool all the way through PhD programs, and I was a staff interpreter at ASU, so I've been a kind of the fly on the wall through all of those kind of transitions. So I bring that to this as well.
Thank you. And
then my word, I would say, would be independence. That's kind of your end goal. Right now it's like independence in the bathroom, and then, end goal might be, independence just out there in the world working on a university campus, or, whatever that is. That's the end goal. It's independence. Whatever that looks like for that student.
Linwood, your name, your role, and one word that describes the picture that comes to mind when you think of transitions.
Okay, I got it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linwood Cole. I am a family engagement manager at Educare Washington, D.C. I'm at the IDEA location. My pronouns are he and him. And one word that comes to mind when I think about transitions will be challenge. Very challenging.
Thank you. Mindy, Summer, and then Yetta.
Hello, my name is Mindy Zapata. I am a Head Start Director in Phoenix, Arizona. Linwood, I have an Educare Arizona in my Head Start responsibility, so I know you. It's nice to make your acquaintance. And when I think about transitions and the upstream transitions that happen from early childhood into the K-12 system, I think about the essential element of partnerships.
Good word. Summer?
Hi, I'm the problem child right now with connective issues, so I apologize.
I was just about to say that we're all practicing giving each other grace, whether we're parents or maybe working at a school where all the internet went out today, the day that you have a panel.
Yeah.
So
that's so fun. I am first and foremost, my name's Summer Sheldon. My pronouns are she and he, her. And I am first and foremost a parent of 3 children with many different neurodiversities within, and then I'm also a person of neurodiversity. And so I've experienced a lot of things from that perspective. Their ages are 8, 12, and 13. So I'm just heading into the teen years, which is real fun. But I work for Hand in Hand Parenting as a parent educator, and I've done that for the last 10 years. And then I'm also a counseling intern at a counseling clinic as well. And then I would think if I had one word, I think stressful and exciting. I'm going to step outside the box and give 2, that there's those transitions that can be really room for growth. And then there's a lot of stress connected.
that's exciting. All right, Yetta.
So happy Thursday, everyone. My name is Yetta Myrick. I'm based in Washington, D.C. I founded a nonprofit, DC Autism Parents, because I'm the mother of a son who is now 18, who was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and an intellectual disability. My pronouns are she and her, and my word would be complex. Oh, and I'm also the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Learn the Signs Act Early Ambassador. I think that's important to share, given that we're talking about early childhood. There are many different roles. It's like literally, which hat am I right now on this panel? So thanks for having me.
You know what? That's a perfect, that is a perfect, I should have put that in our introduction, that we all have a lot of hats that we wear. So sometimes you might be wearing your hat as a parent. Sometimes I consider myself an educator hat, and I'm also a mental health professional hat. And then Summer, I also identify as neurodivergent hat. So just tell me what hat you're wearing and we can work from there. I just want to give Yasmin a chance to introduce herself. She is, we call ourselves Y Squared when we used to work together, because we got all each other's emails. And she is going to be, she and Pamela, I'm going to spotlight her real quick, and Benjamin, but you already met him, are going to be monitoring the chat box and the Jamboards for questions today. So Yasmin, you want to introduce yourself real quick, or did I miss it?
Yeah. No, I can go ahead and do so. Just share a little bit about my background. I'm Yasmin Lynch, and I am currently working as a consultant, but I do have an early childhood background. I've been a school teacher. I was formerly an administrator of a Montessori school, and I've worked in early intervention, and that's how I used to work with Jennifer's son, Luke. And so I've just got a real passion for early childhood, and like I said earlier, really looking forward to hearing perspectives and experiences, and really how we can make some change little by little. Thanks.
You already got a chance to meet Pamela a little bit. I'm just going to let her wave, and then we're going to come back to her later. She'll be one of the hosts in your breakout rooms. And my name is Yasmina. I am the former director of school safety and social wellness from the Arizona Department of Education, and now the school-based services transformation team lead here at the National Training and Technical Assistance Center. And my role, or my word that I chose, was complicated. I'm going to first pass this first question to Linwood. And the question is, what is the #1 issue related to transitions through the education service systems, whether those systems be early intervention, elementary, IEP, for your particular organization or system? And panelists, if you're in the question document, a little hint, if you see your name highlighted in yellow, I'm for sure gonna come to you. You won't get to answer all questions, but I tried to make it equitable so everyone is answering some.
Good afternoon. So I think for me, from my perspective, looking from the family engagement lens and what families go through, I think the systems are not very comparable, right? You go through this process in ECE and your child is able to get services and you're finally making some strides and your child is making some leeway. And then, when you transition over to elementary or kindergarten, now it's time to go through the process all over again, right? And there may be a lapse in the time when your child is able to receive those services or things are able to carry over. So I think that, there is a huge gap in the process in which it takes for our children to be able to receive those services on both levels. As good as it can get when you're in early childhood, you want the same when you go to elementary, but a lot of times the classroom sizes are totally different. So those services look completely different for that child.
I know I was surprised as a high school educator. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm excited for this conversation, because if you can't wipe your butt, I'm afraid. I have fear. So this is going to be learning for me, because to learn that there's classroom sizes are so much smaller than ours. We're 30, 35, sometimes 40. It's a big difference in the type of service you can provide. So Yetta, I'd like you to answer the same question. In your eyes, in your system, what's one of the number one issues related to transition?
So the number one issue really is there not being a clear process. Families don't necessarily know where it is that they need to go. Depending on case in point, if they're suspected of having, a disability, pediatricians don't necessarily know, okay, they might send to early intervention, right? But then if their wait list, to connect a child through the medical system, that has become, a huge issue, a huge challenge. And so, there really needs to be a space where we can clearly support families by having conversations with families. Because one of my main things is always how do we partner with families and figure out what they need and ask questions, and say that, hey, I don't know, I don't understand, or this is my understanding, and let me help you figure out how to navigate. But the navigation really is the largest challenge that I'm finding that families are having, and getting linked in to the actual services themselves. So if you're dealing with the schools, there are laws in place where you have to be evaluated at a certain amount of time, and that's great. But what if you need more? What if you need to scaffold? And so families are just in the case with autism, for example, people think, if the school diagnoses, well, the school doesn't necessarily diagnose, it's a classification, right? So there needs to be clear language, clear pathways by which to guide families. And unfortunately, right, we need the providers to kind of be on the same page about what these processes are. And then the other piece too is making sure that you're having these conversations with families to help guide them, right, along the way, because I think that's where our children get lost in these cracks. And thinking about the gaps that Linwood was talking about, right? Really trying to make space to learn with each other and from each other is going to be key in fixing some of these systems and making sure the service delivery is running a lot smoother.
One of the things I really like that you said in there, Yetta, and I think it's a kind of a refrain in the early childhood system, at least I know in the high school system, power with instead of power over the families that you serve, doing things together. And since we're fortunate enough to have a couple of people with multiple hats, I'm going to go and ask my parents to take out their parent hat next. Summer. And then Jennifer, in your eyes, what is the number one issue related to transitions?
I think I loved what Yetta and Linwood said. I think that sense of the the building up and the stripping away and the building up and just the multiple transitions that are sort of secondary that everyone has to go through. And even just the understanding of the language, that there's sometimes services are provided in the early education that then are stripped away at the elementary because they don't have an educational impact, and not even understanding. For instance, my son qualified for OT when he was under 3, but then it was stripped away when he entered preschool because it was hard to tell whether or not he was on peer with his on track with his peers. There, and same thing with speech. I think the other huge thing was the loss of relationship with providers. I, like my daughter's first speech teacher, we were like Facebook friends, and she came and sat in my couch in my living room, and we had this incredible relationship. And then she switched to preschool and Head Start and started receiving services, and I literally didn't know her name. And I had such a loss of information, like that I could tell her even just, the provider didn't know me and didn't know her and the information that could be helpful. So I think the relationship pieces that are lost are really significant, and the emotional support that goes with that. So, the emotional support pieces are kind of what makes a good service, something that goes from good to great, either
The relationship.
yeah. And so that building of that connection, kids can go and get some good service and parents can have a good experience, but what makes it a great experience is that emotional connection piece.
And Jennifer, in your eyes, what's the number one issue?
I think for me, we're going to do kindergarten next, and that's coming up really soon. And we had this label, DD is developmental delay, and we don't quite have our finger on what exactly is that, what exactly is going on with him. He's still very young. And so those determinations come later. What is that determination going to be? I do have a brother who is autism spectrum disorder. I probably have some things about me that are even quirky, and I don't have that label. My brother did not get the label until he was 25. So guess what services he got in school? None, absolutely none. So, and it comes down to sometimes, it's like, oh, are you classified this or you classified that? And then your services are based off of that. And sometimes that can be very limiting. Instead of just looking at the child as an individual and what's going on with him and what does he need. And he is a little bit on that borderline of, we got him qualified for speech when he was a year and a half. He had really no spoken words at that time, and he had 3 signs. Mm-hmm. And then, when they looked again, when he turned 3, they were like, he's good. He doesn't qualify. And then we didn't have any services. And then COVID hit, and we lost all of those kind of things that were helping to keep him going in the right direction. We lost, all of our, there's a Thrive to 5 early program through Tempe.
Yeah.
We lost library, we lost. And so all of those things that were keeping him on track lost, and then he declined. And now it's like, oh, he qualifies. And now here we are. So, and so sometimes you can be in these situations where it's like they're looking pretty good, and then things happen and things change. And if you take away certain things, now you see the decline. Now you can see that there's a deficiency, where before, when those things are in place, you don't really see these. You're like, they look pretty good. He looks on track. He's talking a lot. He's signing. He's bilingual. This is great. He doesn't.
It's almost like what you were doing was working. So the solution was to take it away.
Right. So, and then same with my daughter, she was born she has 3 fingers on this hand. They were joined and we had them separated. She's got a smaller leg. She's missing a fibula bone. She has 4 toes. We're doing a surgical reconstruction of this leg, and she's going to ebb and flow. So she is on track, and she's going to have a surgery, and we're going to do a leg extension, and she's going to be non-weight bearing. And then boom, and then there we go again. And so then it's like, she's not going to, we have this steady development. No, we're going to have this up and down and this going back. And she worked on time. She worked at 13 months, and then we did a surgery, and then she's non-weight bearing. She had.
So I think of I don't mean to interrupt you because there's so much richness into what you're saying, and I want to weave in a perspective on something you said earlier, so I just didn't want to miss it. There was something that you said earlier, Jennifer, about who gets evaluated for services and when they get evaluated for services. And I'm hoping, Adugo, I'm going to pass it to you first. I'm hoping that as I ask this next question, that you can maybe also comment on how some of the screening tools themselves are culturally biased, and that the intersection of attempting to get help when you might not look like the person who's providing the services, or you're coming in with different cultural experiences. So I'm going to go first to Adugo, and then I can't see who I had next on my list, but by the time she's done talking, I probably will. What advice would you give to a caregiver or a provider who is just beginning their journey in this work?
Sure. One of the things that I share a lot to a lot of the parents that come in, especially their transition from like a small setting to a much larger setting, DC public school, you go from having 10 students and you're going to 20, right? Is to begin connecting with the families that are in that program, right? Begin to be a part of that school community. A lot of the schools at DC public schools have very rich community involvement. Principals are out in the community. And sometimes what I tell parents is embed yourself in that. A lot of times, some of the information that I know as a provider, my families are the one that tell me those things, right? And then I share those information with other families. In regards to this, this race and equity conversation that's come up several times in our work, is sometimes we tell our providers who are providing the services, like the staff that I supervise, to get to know the families that are coming to our office, right? Understand their cultural background, understand their history, understand what challenges that the family had to navigate just to get their child into the program, right? When we think about a lot of our children that come into our early childhood program with special education services, just understanding, and I think Yetta kind of spoke to that, and Jennifer, understanding language changes, right? From that early year, you get into DC public school, we're not talking about an IFSP, we're now talking about an educational plan and supporting parents to understand that language. And as Jennifer talked about, losing some of those services that go away when you come into a school setting. Oftentimes I tell parents, we have to advocate for those services to remain the same when your child transitions into a larger program. And then that's the conversation of whether we put a child in a general setting or we put them in an inclusion classroom. So oftentimes I tell parents, get involved in the school of your choice, in the community. Go to a lot of like the summer play dates, a lot of community activities, because that is the way to kind of understand that community and be entrenched in it.
I love that. I love that holistic view of like seeing what's around the community, becoming part of it, embedded in it, enmeshed with it. Not enmeshed with it, but like Summer was saying, we had a different type of relationship with some of the earlier services. So Mindy, what is your advice?
Yes, well, my advice, it makes me sad when I hear like Head Start has not had as optimal of an experience. And in fact, it makes me think about in the Head Start program that I administer, we actually invest in having some of our personnel who work for us, in addition to what the school district offers in that IEP, access to speech language pathology, occupational therapy, physical therapy. So those relationships that happen so amazingly in the birth to 3 arena for children with IFSPs can have that same kind of continuum for families so that they can be engaged in that journey that will take them into their IEP in the preschool setting and then bridge to what their experience will be in the K-12. Just advice for the caregivers and providers. We often, from the family engagement lens, advocate that parents are consumers of their children's education, and they should shop the community for what will be the best match for their unique child's needs. I mean, I think we've heard from Jennifer, and some are very different scenarios, and what great advocates that they've been to identify and navigate in the community the best space and place for their child at this time where they have been in the journey that they're experiencing. And I think, I see that the partnerships and what Head Start can offer families is, that going alongside them to facilitate the navigation into our very acronym, heavy world that is that bridge from the early childhood special education experience into their lead educational agency experience. And so, the other thing that we really like to instill in our families as we engage them and support them through this process is, we like to call it the 3 C's, that it's essential that the communication, the collaboration and coordination, that we really have to hear families what their priorities are. And I think when you add that with really meaningful collaboration with families, not just like what's going to be the most cost effective and what meets the norms of what's defined in where we are in Arizona for what meets a service delivery model, that's when we are doing those things very effectively, that really gets to the coordinated high quality individualized special education services that we wish for all children.
Yeah.
Can I add something as well?
Please do.
So I just wanted to add in also, not being scared or apprehensive to engage dads, right? Fathers. Because sometimes, a lot of programs or caregivers or whomever, right, they may come in from a different angle and not realize that engaging the father right along with the mom can be a extra push, right? And it helps in the process of getting everything going. So I think a lot of programs and caregivers, we have to also not forget about the dads that are out there that care, just as much as the moms.
And I'm just going to have to go ahead and just make my public. I forgot that Linwood was also bringing his hat as a father to this, and there shows my own sexism and ignorance, right? Because dads matter too. So sorry, you're here with that hat as well. So thank you for giving me that lifetime call in, and this is my promise to do better. Would you? Now I'm just going to get all sorts of confused. Would you like to add as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I've already said for providers, parents are partners, right? And you will always want to approach them in that way. I think the other thing too, when you partner with families, there is this space for you to really learn and grow together, right? I think all of us who are here on this panel, right? Like we've learned over time, like we are not the same people that we were, when we first started on this journey, right? And so I think the important thing when I think about, parents being consumers, right? Like we are the ones who like help you do your job, whether you want to admit that or not, right? And I think the other piece too, when I think about the caregiver, especially when you start this journey, is very overwhelming. Like I know, like I have years of experience now, but I still get overwhelmed, right? Because the systems are very complex. Like that is my word, right, for today. Complex. And so, I think back, over time, and I remember being at the table very early on and just not really knowing like what was going on. Like Pamela remembers me, like, I say this, like I was like the baby autism mama, right? And so I was like put out there. Like I remember there was a specific experience where I was in this group with a lot of different providers, right? And I was a parent in this group, and they were like, oh, well, who's going to present on this? And everybody like sat back and no one said anything. And finally, you remember this, Pamela? Finally, I was like, sure, I'll do it. And they were like, yeah. So they tell me after the fact that, yeah, Yetta, we were hoping that if we just sat back, like you would go ahead and do it, right? So they were putting me out there, which I appreciate, so that I can like in some ways like learn and like grow and like become powerful in who I am as a parent. And I think that is what really makes the difference. When you partner and you give parents the space, like, you're going to see them blossom and learn how to advocate and do what they need to do for their children. So I really think it's like, don't sell parents short. In terms of the caregiver piece, which is where I was going, and I totally thought about this other piece, is like, when you
I
first get
actually
started.
like I like your question way better. I actually like your question way better. So I'm actually gonna just stop you right there.
Okay, please stop me.
Really great question. I want to know what everyone else on this panel, whether you're a parent or not. So you're an early childhood professional, you're a clinical psychologist, Pamela, I know you're in here, and you're a parent. What was your aha moment in this work? What was your aha moment that made you go, oh, I got to speak on this. I have to do something. I have to get involved. This is where my passion is. Maybe it's because of your own child. Maybe it's, or maybe it's this moment that yet to describe. I love it. So if anyone wants to jump in, this is an unplanned impromptu question.
Sure, I can jump in. I think my aha moment is when I started the process with my own child to going to school, right? Like, I have always, similar to Yetta, listened to a lot of parents, try to identify their strengths, want to understand what their goals and aspirations are for their children. And then when I started doing the process, I was like, wait a minute. So I'm now a parent. I now got to get my child in school. I was looking for someone to do like an interview with me to ask me what are my strengths, what are my aspirations are for my child. And there wasn't no one there, right? So then I had to kind of bulldoze my way into the school and kind of start asking multiple questions that I know my parents would often ask me. And that was my aha moment, like, okay, now I really understand, right, as a parent, what it means to navigate, to get my own children into school. So that was my big aha moment.
I just want to lovingly call you in and saying that going into a school to advocate for your child is not bulldozing. And that there's some like complex cultural layers to that. Being a person of color, going into those spaces, having the fear to advocate for your child as well, to be seen as someone who is angry, and that some folks don't go into school for that reason. And I want you to know, as an educator, we want you there. We want to be your partners, and that we want to work with you. Anyone else have an aha moment?
Can I just say really quickly, Yasmin, Mina, that I like what you just said about how Black women are portrayed, like, that is 100%. And the reality is, until we're in this time and space right now, like, for me to get up on a panel and say it and agree with you, like, this is like a new day, right? Because the reality is Black folks have felt that way, have felt that we, specifically as Black women, you know, are perceived as angry Black women. And so to be in this space where you're like constantly like having to go and advocate and fight for your children, like, that is a whole lot to put on, you know, put on Black people, right? And so I just really want to thank you for saying that and like giving me the space to like say, yes, that is absolutely true. I see head nods. This is what was happening. And this is what made it so difficult oftentimes for me personally to like go and do these things. But it was like, I have to be there. I have to do this, right? Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it for my son? And it's a lot to carry. But, you know, I always say, it's not my son that's the issue, it's the systems that are the issue. And so I have to move and push past that in order to advocate and do what I need to do. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that other aha with us. Anyone else?
I could say, oh, sorry.
Summer, then Jennifer.
Okay.
I'll be real quick. I think for me, my aha moment that brought me sort of into this space was not only was it one fight to access services and navigate the system and being on the outside trying to look in and all of that, but then when I actually finally acquired services, the piece for me was that I needed the emotional support as a parent to actually even like get my kid in the car to like go to the services, that there was like a whole secondary level of emotional work and relationship building within my son and the providers, and parenting skills that I didn't have, that were just totally absent from the system, and were even acknowledged that there was going to be a whole lot of emotional work that was totally separate from what the system was providing, and was totally ignored too. So just the regular stress of parenting a kid with neurological differences, and then the secondary stress of navigating the system. So that was what like, there's a secondary level of support that I am really passionate about.
I love that. Thank you, Jennifer. And then I believe there's a question from the chat after that.
I think for me, you know, I had the, you know, where he didn't qualify initially for my son, and knowing that I had to go back and be like, look again, because there were things that were happening, but because he had qualified for speech only initially, then there were other things behavior-wise that were at that time less, that were overlooked and maybe missed, and I had to go back and be like, look, because now you can see it more, because now we've COVID. So, and that I'll probably always need to be like, look, you know, and with my daughter, this, you know, look again, because sometimes, you know, they're still awesome kids, and like my daughter, she's totally into jumping right now, which is totally on target for her too, and so you may miss it, and so but with the kind of supports that they need, but I feel like I'm probably gonna always have to be like, but look, and there'll be something more, you know, going on, and be like, okay, but look, and you know, that they're maybe not going to see everything that I see every day in their, you know, evaluation time, and in their hour long or 2 hours or however long they take.
Oh yeah, that like tiny little minute.
But look, do you see this? I'm seeing this, and I'm probably gonna have to constantly maybe be like Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. So
oh yeah,
you only see maybe this tiny little picture of what the totality of everything of what this is.
I think Jennifer just named her session. I think you just named your session on accident, because I'm definitely calling your session, but wait, there's more.
Yeah,
Yasmin, I think there was a question in the chat.
Yeah, there is. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but Karan wanted to know, what would your advice be on pushing parents / caregivers to step into advocating for their children when you give them the opportunities to be that voice and they don't take it, or are hesitant after giving them the tools? And I think Yetta just kind of shared a little bit about that, but if there's any other panelists that would like to step in here.
Linwood and Mindy, we haven't heard from you in a bit.
Yeah, you know, I think that there, you know, I really, what Summer was describing, that secondary need of families that have children that are in special education services, and how systems, you know, as Yetta so excellently illustrated, are often not ready to support and individualize for that family's readiness, those parents' readiness to be able to advocate for their children. And so, you know, I really think that if systems can include, whether it's a state preschool program, a Head Start program, or another early intervention provider, if they can individualize in the same way that there's individualization happening within the service delivery model for that child birth to 5, the opportunities to walk, I always think of, you know, the with and for, you know, walking with families until they feel that confidence, and you can be that navigator, facilitator of the successes to advocate on their own behalf for their children. It's teaching to the system that is not yet ready to receive families in a really individualized way, at the same time as leaders in early childhood pushing for the system to change, so that the schools are ready to match the needs of families across this country.
Love the both and approach, Mindy. Linwood, did you need Yasmin to read the question again, or do you remember? Because I got lost, not lost in a bad way, but lost in a good way in Mindy's answer. So
I was going to just add that, sometimes you just have to value the disorganization, right? If a family is disorganized and how they want to advocate for their child, value it, break it down for them and handhold, right? The greatest thing that we can do for our families is to lead them to success. Sometimes it may be constantly calling them, right, after hours, putting in a little bit of extra work, or it could be as simple as, just, hey, let's think about this in another way, right? Allowing them the opportunity to take their self out of their self and look at it in a totally different way, to give them a better understanding of, what trauma and what damage it could be doing to their child for them not to advocate for them now when they go to a higher level, grade school, right? 25 kids in the classroom, high school, even more. So having them to understand that, if you don't advocate now in this moment, then it may become even harder and worse as that child gets older.
that Linwood. And I'm going to just chime in, I know this question wasn't to me, but I can't stop talking about this. So I'm also going to chime in a piece of practical advice. If you're working with new families that are feeling hesitant or unsure about whether to engage in the disability determination process or whatever, get them to watch the movie Encanto and then everybody talk about Bruno. Sometimes it's finding a way in, right? And if I still worked in a high school right now, I would make every single teacher and student watch that movie, because if you can help make, social stories are important, especially if you're working with neurodivergent kids and their families. And Encanto, as a social story, is beautiful. And it really shows that the gift is community and the gift is family, and that we use our gifts, whether that's neurodiversity, whether that's strength, whether that's whatever it is, and we come together and we work together and we use that gift for something, even though maybe you don't know what your gift is yet. And so finding different ways to make mental health approachable is and part of our daily conversation. I think those teachable moments in pop culture can be beautiful. With our last 8 minutes, I told you all we were never going to make it through all those questions, but we have lots and lots and lots of stuff. So don't forget, don't miss us for the rest of this series. We're scratching the surface. We're going to talk about Bruno. Round robin, everybody, what motivates you to keep going? And we'll go backwards alphabet. So the Y's get to go first. Yetta.
Ooh, you put me on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, first and foremost, my son has always been my motivation, but I think also too, creating change. One of my mantras is to create life-changing opportunities for people with autism and related disabilities so that they can live a full life, right? And so that's what really motivates me, because I'm not just thinking about we're having this conversation about early childhood, but we know what happens right now propels the trajectory through the lifespan. And so I really think about how can my son and others like him be a functional part of society. That is what motivates me, because I want him to have a full life. I want others to have a full life, right? And so when I close my eyes, I want to be at peace, and know that I did everything that I could to support him and to support others. Last thing I want to say, and I get a little full about it, but my dad at one point, he said, we could ask the question why my son has autism, but why not? Why wouldn't he have autism? What sets us apart, right? And so it's the reason, and my dad was the reason I believe he has autism is because you were meant to be his mother and to support him. And so, there's our children and the challenges they have, they are not an accident. They are with us for a reason, right? And I really truly believe that, we are here to help guide the way, to help support them. And yes, it might be challenging, there are ups and downs, but there's so many joys in raising my son and supporting this community. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
I love that, Yetta. Thank you. They are the gift. Summer.
Oh yeah, that's so beautiful. It's hard to follow. And that you spoke so beautifully and perfectly. I do think, obviously, I agree so much with my kiddos being, I just want so badly for them to be well. But I actually think the motivation why I'm actually here, I think what drives me in their school district to show up is them. But I actually think the showing up in this space is actually you guys. I think literally there's all of the beautiful faces and the people who spend their energy making this better, doing it's not broken, but it could be better. And in that same way. And so people who are coming here and spending their hour-and-a-half lunch break to think well about how we can just level up. And it's really exciting and fun, actually. So it's really fun to be here. And I appreciate you.
I think what motivates me to keep doing this work is that there are some amazingly dedicated individuals in lead education agencies in the city that I work in. And the systems have long been established that don't always match the needs of children and families, but in the time that I've been doing this work, I have seen incremental systemic change. And I feel like, I hope in my lifetime before I retire, we can make some of these changes sustained. And so that's really what keeps me going, is that there's a great dedicated individuals on the early childhood side of the fence, mental health side of the fence, parents, and then those that are in the public school system that want the same things that we want. And it's dependent on us keep forcing those opportunities and relationships to bridge what families need and children need as they enter their lead education agency.
Well, Yasmin's going to trademark some of your catchphrases, leveling up for our kids. Linwood.
For me, what keeps me going is just simply bettering the community and leaving the community better than what I found it, right? Growing up in the Prince George's County metropolitan area, Washington, D.C., there were a lot of challenges, right? I was a product of a single mother. So I saw her struggles and the things that she went through in order to raise me and get me to where I am. So when I see families in the same situation that I was when I was younger, and as I grew older, it motivates me to really put my all into helping them, right? And not allowing our families to quit and pushing them to be better and advocate for themselves, because in our community, that's one of the biggest problems that we have. A lot of us are not aware and don't know how to advocate for ourselves. So when you have an opportunity to leave the world better than what you found it, I truly believe that is your obligation to do it.
Leaving the world a better place. I love it. Jennifer?
For me, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, especially I'm still kind of at the beginning of things and trying to figure things out and what am I going to do? And I'm kind of like, I don't know sometimes, and keep going kind of because I have to is what some days feel like, but really just this knowing that, I'll keep going for them and for, that end outcome of, wanting whatever's best for them. Yetta got me like, and, and just wanting what's best for them, wanting them to enjoy their childhood when they get to adulthood, of just wanting them to be able to have the best of whatever that is for them, of whatever they choose for themselves and what they're going to be doing as far as work and family and whatever that looks like for them, and just being there as their support and their advocate, and just, you know, whatever I can do to make that the best journey, the best outcome, as much as I can do, and knowing that, you know, they're going to be, you know, a big part of that outcome too, and knowing that they've got to be in that as well too. So, but just being their partner in that, and just keep going with whatever they need, and that, which, you know, that it's them is what just keeps me going every day. So.
And I like what you said about that, them having the options, like the choice to determine, you know, whatever that is, as long as the choice is available. Aduga, what keeps you motivated? Not going to be able to talk today.
Sure. I think as a child that immigrated from another country to the U.S., I think what keeps me motivated is just seeing families thrive and go above the limitations that is from their perspective or what society projects onto them, right? I've always been an advocate of the underdog, right? So if you're able to get past your limitation, the sky's the limit, and you are able to succeed and do all things that others probably projected that you would not do. So I think when I'm able to see parents thrive and be successful and achieve what it is that they wanted for themselves and their children and their families, that's what keeps me motivated.
I didn't plan that, but that was a perfect way to end. If you want to remove our spotlights, Alice, I'm gonna click on the top right hand of my screen, and I'm gonna click to gallery view so I can see everybody together. I want to say thank you to our panelists, and don't leave, to our learners. I know a lot of folks are probably going to be listening to this later because we have a lot of folks download. But what we're going to do now, really quick with the rest of, we're going to transition to a debrief room. And we are going to let you, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Panelists, if you have to, if you are able to join us, we would absolutely love it. But if you have to jam on, we understand. Just be sure to come back and join us next time when they are here. Can you see my screen, y'all? Yeah, okay. So down here at the end on slides 13 and 14, you're going to go into your small breakout room, and you are going to design the series for us, because this is going to be built for you. So in your groups, you'll be able to talk about one thing you're interested in, one thing you might want to talk about, and also a little processing activity. Something I learned that squared with my beliefs, a question going around in my head, and 3 points that I will remember. And I absolutely love that there's already been people in here. So I am going to let Alice open up the breakout rooms. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, you will receive a join link, and there you go. Oh, look at, you're just getting sucked into cyberspace. Yay! Hello, everyone. Welcome back. You got sucked through cyberspace. Ooh, we lost some people during time travel. Well, this will be easy. I bet you all didn't know that we were like Star Trek official. Hi, Fran. Hi, Ramon. Hi, David. Hi, Christy. So we are going to be closing down for today. Our program manager, Alice, is going to drop into the chat a survey for today, so that we can also design feedback. And my new favorite thing is making sure that people have time to complete a survey and not forcing them to take time out of whatever is next in their day, and allowing them to have time to spaciously transition. So because we had such good dialogue today, we didn't have enough time. We didn't have a long time for a full group debrief. And I know a lot of folks have to transition at the top of the hour. So Pamela, do you have any final parting words?
I mean, I just feel like we all got so emotional during the panel. I mean, it's just, this work is, I just really want to thank our panelists for sharing so deeply. They're amazingly articulate, and you know, I'm so proud of all of them. Yeah, I know that you all have been on your own amazing journeys, but we just really appreciate you sharing, and I'm excited for the work that we're going to do together in the COP. One note, you all will see the timing of the sessions. They're at a little bit of varied times because we wanted to try to, so one of them is at an evening time, which may or may not work, evening on the East Coast, may or may not be family friendly. Apologies. We are trying to have some programming at times that like grantees in the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam could also log in for, because otherwise all of our stuff is like at 3 a.m. for them. So that's the issue with the timings, but we would just love it if people come to whatever they can. And we will record what we can, nothing in Breakout, but we'll record what we can for the sessions that you can't make.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback off of that and just say thank you to the panelists for your transparency and vulnerability with your experience and your perspective. And thank you all for joining us. We're really looking forward to the future sessions. And yeah, please come back.
And if you haven't been on the Jamboard because you haven't checked it out, scroll through everybody's answers. We'll send them in the follow-up email. And it is your teaser to come back to us next time. We look forward to it. Ding!